Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Let the Be Talk. Today is Monday, August 6th, coming to you live from the East Coast, New York City. How is everybody? How was your weekend? What are you up to? What's going on? It's fucking cooking hot out here. The humidity is on fire, right up there with the do the right thing, burning hot Spike Lee weather. Man. That's what it feels like in New York this week. You ever see Do the Right Thing, Spike Lee? One of my favorite movies ever. Oh my God, the whole film's geared around how hot it is, and you can just feel the heat burning up here in New York. The planet's on fire. There's no global warming. Yeah, fuck. NorCal's on fire. New York's a furnace. Lightning all the time. Oh man. It's crazy out there, but anyway, welcome to my Monday and your Monday. Here we are with a great guest today. You like guitar. I know you like guitar because you guys are always like, get some more guitar players on. Since it's all dudes, this is an all-dude network, apparently. Never hear from any women listeners. It's all dudes like, dude, you got to get on some more dudes. Anyway, guitar players, man. There's so many out there that I think that are incredible and fly under the wire, but have mad street credit. And this guest today, Mr. Jim Campilongo, is one of those guys. Me growing up in the Bay Area and playing music in San Francisco for a long, long period of time. Of course, I would rub shoulders. Remember that old one? I rub shoulders. I would play gigs with Jim Campilongo. He was one of the most incredible players, a legend in San Francisco, amongst all the kind of alt country and singer-songwriter and guitar player world. People would be like, "You seen this guy? He can play like pedal steel licks on his telly." And that he could and kill it, man. This guy, he was just a god there at the Paradise Lounge. He'd be like Jim Campilongo. He played on some amazing records, Cake, Norah Jones, Preacher Boy, numerous records. And a lot like me, decided San Francisco has changed. The clubs are gone. What am I going to do? Am I going to sit here and watch my career go away, or take a chance? And that's what he did. He took a chance and moved to New York City, and he's been here for many, many years now and playing guitar, making a living. For 46 years he's been playing guitar. That's just incredible. You know, people always ask me, how come you don't play music anymore? And I'm like, you ever done anything for 25 years? Have you ever done anything for 5 years? Have you ever done anything for 2 or 3 years, like a job or a girlfriend or boyfriend or anything like that? You know, it's a long time to do something, and dedication and love and hate and all of that, that keeps you driving and keeps you going. And Jim Campilongo, it's definitely somebody I think everyone should listen to. A lot like when I had Kenny Vaughn on. These are people that make my jaw drop when I watch him play guitar. It's going to be a great episode, so enjoy. We talk all kinds of cool stuff. We talk about his Fender signature model, which is incredible to have. I mean, that's pretty damn cool to have a signature model guitar. One day I hope to have a signature model watch. Some kind of Rolex. Look at that. That's the Del Rey. Anyway, I got a signature jacket, the Del Razor over there at Self Edge. Anyway, I don't know. I'm out of my mind. It's fucking burning up in this room I'm in. I love you guys. Just got back from Rochester. I'm out here hubbing it out of the East Coast for a little while. And on my Nomad Vagabond tour, and was in Rochester for a night with the mighty Bill Burr, my great friend Bill Burr. We did the Rochester Auditorium, and it was just beautiful. And it was cool to be up there after interviewing, some of the Mastodon guys that are from there. So that was kind of cool to get that vibe. And the people up there were just rocking. The crowd was amazing. I got to meet some friends, some good people up there that I've never met, but that listen to the podcast. So that's always really cool. Shout out to Matt Herman, one of my Instagram friends who saw me in Montreal at the Just for Laughs Festival. He came up, brought some cool watches, and we sat around and talked about watches before the show. Thank you, Bill Burr, for having me, man. It was just, it was a last-minute gig that came out of nowhere, so it was an honor to do that. Some Patreon champions out there. That's what you are, the Patreon champions. I want to give some shout-outs to you for donating. Patreon.com/Dean Del Rey. That's where you can make a donation. And believe me, every nickel helps. And a lot of you out there have been lighting the candles for sure. Let's get into it here. Mario Fusca, thank you. Pete Scolin, Eric Driscoll, the champion this week. Anna, oh, there's a woman right there. Anna Gritsevich. Anna, thank you. Wow. Stefan Leon. Edward Appel. Jorge Portillo. Right on. Paul Camazellas. Nobody's got a regular last name anymore. Nobody's got a Smith. Where's a Smith at? Come on, man. Paul Camazellas. Yes, thank you, buddy. John W. He doesn't want anybody to know his last name because it could be like John Wah. John W. I don't know. I'm out of my head. And also, a very special thanks to Robert Chapman. Donated a couple Shure SM7s to the show. So start next week, the audio is going to be upgraded for all you fucking friends of mine out there. You headphone friends. It's going to be nice and calm on the eardrums. Hey, some shows this week. Kansas City, going to be there at the Improv with Joey Diaz, August 9, 10, and 11. Kansas City with Joey Diaz. God damn. All right, you cocksuckers. It's going to be amazing. I'm headlining Denver Comedy Works. This just came in August 16, 17, 18. Comedy Works South. September 14th through the 15th. Richmond, Virginia with Bill Burr. September 16th. At Charleston, South Carolina with Bill Burr. September 28th, Foxwoods, Connecticut with Joey Diaz. And the 29th, Boston, Wilbur Theater with Joey Diaz. Oh, yeah, and one other date that just got added. Here we go. Sorry, I don't want to miss this. August 30th through September 2nd, Minnesota, House of Comedy. So, hey. This is your chance to see me while the clubs are booking me. Get out there, show face, and, come to these shows. Because when the club books me, I really want to see you guys. And comedy sucks without people. That's all there is to it, you know? I'm not going to lie. You fly far and you get there and you go, this blows. But, yeah, get out there. What else we got going here? Oh, I got a little funny story. I was flying, and then I'll get into the guest. I was flying from L.A. to New York, and I had grabbed this bag I hadn't used in a while. And I got TSA pre-check and clear, so I just throw the bag there and walking through. And then the bag goes off, and I was like, oh, what the fuck's that, you know? He's like, is this your bag? I was like, yeah, that's my bag. He's like, all right. And he's looking at the screen. He goes, looks like there's a knife in there. I was like, oh, fuck, knife? I don't carry a knife. You know, I don't carry a knife. You know, I was like, what the fuck's a knife doing in my bag? And then I started thinking, you know, like, hey, did I set my bag down somewhere and someone threw a knife in it? You know that old thing? Please do not leave your bag unattended. Anyway, so I'm like, well, there's no knife in there. You know, the guy's crazy. He starts going through the bag. He pulls out a switchblade. Not a knife, a fucking switchblade. which is an absolute felon. A felony. I'm like, oh, what? It was my switchblade that I got like in 7th grade. I've had since the 7th grade. I've had this knife for, I don't know, what am I, 52? How many years is that? 7th grade. I remember a guy was going to Tijuana in the neighborhood, and he took a collection. Hey, I'm going to buy switchblades. Anybody want one? I think it was like $5 or $10. And I gave him the money, and like a week later, he's back, and he had a switchblade. And this is a real, this is old, because old days, 70s, switchblades, 70s, 80s, switchblade was real. It was badass. Had like the ivory handle. You press the brass button on the top. It was old. I've had it that fucking long. And I threw it in the bag, I guess, when I was kind of packing up the apartment. And so I'm going, I'm fucking going to jail here. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, what the fuck? I mean, I just had that thing for like fun, And, oh, man. So he's looking right at it, and I'm like, oh, what's going to go down here? I mean, that's a switchblade. And he goes, we're going to have to keep this. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I just he gave me my bag, and I cruised, and I was sitting there at the gate going like, hurry up, plane. There's no way. Eventually, the other person at TSA is going to go, hey, this is actually a switchblade. Where'd they get this? And in my mind for a minute, I was like, ooh, I got away. And then I was like, yeah, they got cameras and everything. I was just reading the TSA. They're taking notes on like body smells and activities, that you're doing. Like how many times you go to the bathroom, what kind of shoes you're wearing and all this shit. These fucking guys, they're taking notes, man. They're taking notes. So there's not, so for a minute I was like, oh yeah, okay, cool. They don't know who I am. I'm long gone. Yeah, the fuck yeah. I'm in the system now, for sure. Switchblader. I was just happy they didn't fucking grab me and I missed the gig and lose the money. I don't give a fuck about anything else. Be like, yeah, I don't do shit. You know what I mean? Anyway, little story I'd say shared with you guys. Let's get into the episode. That's what you guys are probably saying right now. Like, I don't give a fuck about your switchblade story. Get into the episode. All right. Let's get into the man himself. Coming to you, recorded live in Brooklyn. Here he is, Jim Campilongo. Thank you, guys. Yeah.
This is good. I'm glad it's not Skype, I hear those podcasts, and one guy's on Skype, and one guy sounds like Orson Welles, and the other guy sounds like, Wally Cox in a sewer.
That shit's it's funny. I get offered sometimes really big guests, and they want to do it on Skype or telephone or something, and I just say no.
Really?
Well, there's no...
Like George Clooney?
Not Clooney. I guess I would have to say yes to that, but it's... I think the beauty of it is the face-to-face,
Yeah.
I interviewed once Yngwie Malmsteen, and I had to have him on phone because he was in Florida, and it was one of the only 3 I did on phone. And he was driving his car. I could tell he wasn't even really paying attention. He's done his 1 million radio phoner.
Yeah.
He's like, who am I calling now? But
he's kind of he's a real rock star. I met him at the NAMM show in like 2008 or 9, and there's this little video clip of me doing a photo shoot, and you could see like I was thrilled to meet him, but it was like I was like the millionth person he ever met. But it's pretty good. Like we do this photo shoot and we like pose our guitars, and he was nice. I mean, he said I think he said one sentence, and he said, "Nice guitar. It should be a Strat."
Was that like a Fender thing when you had your master bed?
The first Fender, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But so he was driving and just preoccupied. I wonder what he was driving.
Oh, well, he was driving a Ferrari. One of his 3 he said he had. He still has them.
I mean, I guess there's, I don't know what Yngwie does. Like, I know a couple years back he played at Vegas.
Right.
Like, I mean, where's he making Ferrari money, you think?
Well, I think he made a lot of money back in the day with like back when you really made real money with like DVD instructional video deals and that kind of stuff. And I don't know, record sales and touring and T-shirts. And then he lives in Florida, which is like $1, I think.
Right. I want an Yngwie T-shirt.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah,
right?
let's get one.
Here we are, a great guest today, Jim Campilongo, and it's funny because I was really fired up to have you on because you don't know who I am, but I grew up in the Bay Area, and we would play together a lot at the Paradise Lounge. My band, Two-Lane Blacktop.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow, I remember you guys.
Yeah, Jim Campilongo and the 10-gallon hats.
We meet on the air.
Yeah. So it's, and then... we would play together a lot, man. It was that whole era of like Chuck Prophet, Motherlode, Jim Campilongo. What was the guy that did like the Tom Waits kind of style?
Preacher Boy.
Yeah, there you go.
Me and Ralph Carney were in that band for a while. We recorded a record with him.
That's a great record, actually. That one record, yeah. But you were around, and you were like a legend, with the guitar. And I remember I took one lesson from you. It was funny. I was at Brower. Was like, yeah, go see him. It was like, I don't know, downtown somewhere. Went up these stairs and like that music school,
the Music Center of San Francisco.
That was it.
On Sutter.
Something like that. I just remember going up there, and I took like an hour lesson. And I was like, "This is way beyond me."
Was it? Usually, I'm pretty good about judging like the level. I'm sorry. I thought,
no. I was just mostly there. I was new on guitar, and I was like more into singer-songwriter. And I was like, maybe I could pick up some pedal steel licks,
Yeah.
And but it was great anyway.
Algebra pretty quick. Yeah.
All that shit's, that San Francisco era was so incredible. The clubs were full: Slim's, DNA Lounge, Paradise Lounge, the Transmission Theater. The one, what was the one across the street with the swimming pool? It was a dance floor. Like
right.
They filled it. And
I played there once. It had like a real generic name.
Yeah.
I can't remember, but that was like in the city.
Yeah, that old South the Market, man.
Yeah. I mean, that's and I remember when I moved to New York in 2002, I did this like accounting of like what San Francisco musicians moved here, and I remember at about 40, like there was 40 people.
Wow.
And I know I'm only going to think of 1.5 right now because I'm on the spot, but it was like Charlie Hunter, Rob Berger, Dred Scott, Diego, I can't remember his last name, Kenny Wollison. Did I say Jenny Scheinman?
Nope.
Jenny Scheinman, Will Bernard. Like, I know I'm forgetting 25 great players
that just exited.
Everybody left within like a 3-year period, and I think a lot of it had to do with, like you mentioned, like the Paradise closing.
Well, it's that first wave of the .com. Now we got the techies, but remember the .com wave happened and everything just closed.
Yeah. Well, there was like 3 events that I thought changed San Francisco. One was AIDS, the AIDS epidemic, and the assassination of Harvey Milk.
Yeah.
Like kind of changed the city. Then the .com thing really changed the city, and the 89 earthquake.
Right.
I think that the freeway collapsing so you couldn't access Broadway.
You're so right.
And Mabuhay and the Chi-Chi Club.
You're so right.
And that changed. I don't know. It just changed. I don't know how. But
I believe that too. It wiped out that back and forth. Before you could just be like, you could be over at the Berkeley Square, pop onto the bridge, and instantly be at the Stone or the Mabuhay, and you could actually club hop from a bay run, And when that went down, and that whole neighborhood voted not to have that off ramp rebuilt, those people are so crazy. They're like, we don't want that. The noise. It's like it was here before for you. It fell down, and now you don't want it, you know?
You're so right. I mean, you're really bringing back memories, because I remember just like driving up. There was the Broadway exit, and you could take it like at 92 miles an hour safely.
Yeah.
You'd zip up, and I remember driving by the Stone one night, and I saw Roy Buchanan.
Yeah.
And I saw a parking spot, which is pretty special on that street. I parked and went to go see him. And many times I saw John Lee Hooker at the Stone.
Yeah.
And I think that was like the same thing. Like, I was just taking Broadway just to kind of look at the marquees.
Yeah.
Let alone the Chi-Chi, not the Chi-Chi, the Mabuhay.
Yeah.
I saw the nuns there, the dead Kennedys.
Oh, yeah. The Mabuhay Ness, man, the owner. He just passed recently, but...
What was his name?
Ness Arkeen. Or,
No, there was another guy, who owned the Mabuhay, Dirk Dirksen.
Oh, he booked it.
Yeah.
He was the booker.
Was he the booker?
And Ness was the Filipino owner, you know, and there's a great Facebook. I said Ness Arkeen, which is Wes Arkeen from GNR, but Ness, there's a great Facebook page dedicated to the Mabuhay. And I just walked by there a couple weeks ago, and they've got some classic flyers in the window, like Blondie, Ramones, Devo, all that back then. Black Flag. That place is very underrated compared to CBGB's, but that was a hub of like a lot of serious punk rock.
Yeah, I mean, it might be underrated because stuff wasn't necessarily born there.
Yeah, right.
Like CB's,
right,
you know.
Yeah, you're right.
But that said, it was great. It was a great place to be, you know, if you were creative. And, you know, the rents were cheap.
Oh, they were cheap. Remember that? Like $250 to get a studio apartment. It was crazy.
Yeah. I mean, even at the end of it, I had a studio apartment, on Post and Larkin.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I lived on Pine and Larkin.
And we were neighbors.
Yeah.
And the Mother Lode was Kitty Corner, which was a transvestite bar. And it's still a great neighborhood, actually.
Absolutely.
It's still hanging tough.
Yeah.
There's on Larkin, there's like this crazy, like, it's kind of like adult books, but it's not. And you just go through piles of books, and you can find comics. I bought a bunch of old press photos of stars that, like, not stars, but movie people with their 8x10.
Wow.
And you can get like 5 photos for 50 cents or something. And they were great. They were beautiful. I had on the 6th floor, I had a studio apartment, walk-in closet, view of the city, and it wasn't like here in New York where they've converted a janitor's closet into an apartment. Like, at least in the Bay Area, you still get some bang for your buck.
Oh, yeah. High ceiling, crown molding.
Yeah.
It was actually like cool.
There's not a lot of conversions there. Or this used to be a home, and now it's a 30-unit apartment, you know. I mean, like here.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's why you don't get hot water.
Yeah, I know. What's going on with that?
It's just, I think that's why. It's a lot tougher here, you know. But I think, and this seems like a lot in the context of our conversation, but I was paying $600 a month, and I'm sure that place is like $3K now, $4K.
Yeah. Did you grow up in San Francisco? Because I just all of a sudden, you know, I'm starting to play at the Paradise, and boom, I know who you are. But did you grow up there?
Well, no, not in San Francisco proper. Both my parents grew up in San Francisco, Potrero Hill and Bernal Heights, and my grandparents, you know, came from Italy. But I grew up in South San Francisco, the industrial city.
Oh, wow, the airport town.
Yeah, the airport town.
Wow.
I worked at the airport, too.
You did?
Yeah. Yeah, for about 5 years, I was like a messenger for customs, and all the customs officers were like these ex-military guys. It was a crazy job. I mean, I used to like kind of get a job where I didn't have to work.
Yeah.
Like that was my, you know, okay, like if I had to work, like I'd quit. And
Yeah.
so, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, not to sound lazy and entitled, but I was young. I was in my 20s. All I thought about was music, gigs, you know, rehearsing with my original band or whatever I was doing at the time. Nancy and the Neighbors was one of them.
Wow.
Yeah. Great band. And so, yeah, I'd always try and get a job I didn't have to work. And that was one of them. I worked there about 5 years. So
What I always ask everybody, what gets you into music? A lot of people either say Kiss if they're my age, or it's Zeppelin. You know what I mean? But you're growing up out there, and you know, I don't know how old you are, but I'm 52. What hits you?
Well, you know, it's a few things. One thing is my older sisters used to listen to music, and I'd hear it. And I remember hearing Buffalo Springfield and the Incredible String Band.
Awesome.
They had pretty good taste.
Yeah.
Hendrix.
Wow.
And, you know, I'm probably like 10, right?
Yeah.
So fast forward maybe a year or two, and the first LP I bought was Jimi Hendrix's Greatest Hits. And I started buying records based on the length of the track. And I've said this before, but I knew I liked improv, but I didn't know what it was. Like, I liked long, extended improv, but, you know,
Right.
I knew I didn't, I mean, other than the Beatles, and I love the Beatles, like from, as I remember when I was 5, hearing like, you know, I Want to Hold Your Hand or whatever,
Yeah.
6 years old.
The pop stuff.
Well, that specifically, like, I think, you know, I wasn't into pop per se, but I like the Beatles. I didn't like the Rolling Stones, you know. I kind of like melodic stuff. But that said, I started buying records. If there was one song on the side of an LP, I'd buy it blindly.
Wow.
So I really got lucky. I remember I got a Larry Coryell album called Barefoot Boy. I got a John McLaughlin record called Devotion, which is a great record. I got John Coltrane live in Japan, and I got that. I was like, well, it's saxophone, but there was a song called Peace on Earth, and it was 2 sides of a record because it was a double album. I thought, okay, I'm going for that. And then I got a little more informed, and I got Live at Fillmore East by the Allman Brothers.
Amazing.
Great record.
Yeah.
So all those records I named, I still have them. I think I still have the ones I bought, too.
Wow. Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I kind of, you know,
Yeah.
sometimes I'm not, you know, sometimes I'm as messy as the next guy, but sometimes like that kind of stuff, I'm really orderly, and, you know, I really cherish certain things, and those records I cherish. And I could go grab
You got your
it.
records here, which is just amazing.
Yeah.
For New York City, you know, I mean, you got a great space here.
Thanks.
It's so cool. To me, it looks like this was the bedroom, right? And you turned it into the music room.
Well, this is, I've been here 16 years.
Uh-huh.
So,
Wow.
Yeah, this neighborhood's changed.
Yeah.
But so I got really lucky with the record thing, and I only got one turkey, like kind of. I remember I got Rare Earth live in concert.
Oh, yeah.
And it had like one, I think I can't remember. I'm probably like, you know, it's been 45 years, but there was like a Get Ready that was the side of a record, and it was kind of mediocre, you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, but I think I listened to it for like a month and a half anyway, because that's one of the things that's different about our generation is, I mean, I used to go to this place in South City called USE. It was kind of like a Target before there were Targets, and much smaller. And I used to go there and ride my bike and look at the record I was saving up for.
Wow.
Yeah, I'd go
right.
there and go, well,
Make sure it's still there.
Live Cream Volume 2, it's still here. Go drive back. And then maybe a week later, go, it's still here, and buy it. You know? And if I didn't like a record as much as, I like Live Cream Volume 2 very much, but a record like Rare Earth, man, I'd still listen to it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there was nothing else.
It stung though, right? Because you spent the money. That I would talk about how like you'd buy a record and you go, oh, I don't like it that much. And man, it was like, it was done. There it is, just in your collection. You know, you're like, oh man. I mean, that happened to me a few times. You know, where a band had one song and the rest was terrible. Back then, it was. Now you're on iTunes, you just go pass. But back then, it was a physical piece in your collection, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, and when you're a teenager, it's like, that's defining me.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Somebody might see that.
Yeah, that's my face and what I represent.
Oh, my God,
Yeah,
that's
I know a lot of people got rid of like all their rock, at one point when they became jazz. I thankfully didn't do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's a double-edged sword, I mean, like searching for information and digging like you're an archaeologist for music and buying a bunch of bad records and then finding one and going, oh, this is it. This is the mother lode.
Yeah.
I got this.
Yeah.
And who's on it? I'm going to get that. And like you were describing, like your first experience of buyer's remorse.
Totally. Yeah. It's all senses. You know what I mean? That you don't really get now. It's visual, the cover. Whoa, look at the cover. It's, mentally you're reading all the stuff like, oh, look at who's this dude, man, that produced it, and who are these other guys? And then it's like, the emotions of hearing the music. It's so organic and amazing that I think that's why it sticks with me to this day, because it's something that you physically took in, and really it's not just a piece of digital, pieces in flying through an air,
Yeah, I mean, what's the upside of digital pieces flying through the air? Like, I mean, a lot of the younger guys I teach are super informed.
Yeah.
Like they absolutely, I mean, it's a no-brainer. They know who Django Reinhardt is.
Oh, yeah. I mean, looking at the YouTube kids that just kill it, like, they obviously are, they've got so much wealth of knowledge and visuals with YouTube where they can watch like John Paul Jones or somebody, you know what I mean? And go, oh, I can see exactly what they're doing. Where we would have to go to the concert. and then a guy might step in front of you for a minute. You go, oh, fuck, I missed how you did that chord change, you dick.
Did you make Winterland?
I did, man. See, I'm like 2 years behind that.
Yeah.
But I did go to the Stone every night of my life, and of course the Fillmore and all the Dan the Greens and the old Waldorf and Warfield and of course later on just kept going on. I-Beam, Nightbreak. That was just a mecca of music.
Oh, yeah. I used to play Nightbreak. Chris Isaac's former home. Right.
Sushi Sundays. Remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that.
It's incredible.
Yep.
So you're listening to some rock and you're getting into it and stuff, and then it hits you, I got to play guitar?
Yeah. I'm probably, 12 at this point, and like music, listening to Cream, I think I got actually Cream Volume 1, and I got this record, Derek and the Dominoes Live, Eric Clapton. And Eric Clapton isn't really fashionable anymore, and Annie did, he had kind of a real dry run there. I can't remember if it was 70s or 80s, but but back then, it was like I remember, like when he did John Mayall and the Blues Breakers, that record, like sometimes, you might play it for somebody now, like these guys are talking about who are really well informed, and go like, listen to this. Like when I heard this, like, the clouds parted and a sunbeam came down. And it's because like one of the things he did was not only did he get like a great sound, but he swinging.
Yeah.
And a lot of like the hippy dippy bands, whatever, like some of the San Francisco Big Brother and the Holding Company or whatever.
The Dead, you didn't get into the Dead?
Not at all. Wow. I saw him 11 times.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a lot for not being into him at all.
I used to hang around with these two girls in high school. We were really good buddies. I can't remember the other one's name. One was Dorothy Jensen, and we'd just have a blast. We'd go and go see the Dead, and they were real Deadheads. I did see Merle Haggard and Jerry Garcia and Merle Saunders at a place on California Street. I can't remember that. Mr. Hyde's.
Oh, Mr. Hyde's, yeah.
And it was really good, but I always felt like I don't want to diss anybody in our time, but like I connected more with Roy Buchanan, Eric Clapton at that time, and so anyway, to make my point, it's easy to just go off on a tangent. I got Derek and the Dominoes Live, and there's a track on there called Let It Rain. And the pre-drum solo, the pre-drum solo, guitar solo, even to this day, I think it's really great. And it's like, it was voted, I believe, the worst guitar solo of all time by Rolling Stone magazine and a top 100 worst rock solos.
Really?
Yeah, it kind of was strange because it was like the solo that kind of was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. Like, to go, I have to play guitar. Like, I just have to. I'd listen to it all day. It would like make me want to like break furniture, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a 14-year-old boy. You want to break furniture anyway.
Yeah, you do.
That would like, set me off.
Set shit on fire, break furniture,
Blow things up.
firecrackers. Yeah.
Yeah. Grow up, start wars.
Yeah.
Invade other countries.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll stop. So I ended up, the guy across the street from me, his name was Austin Slater, used to, like, some days he'd be in his garage playing acoustic guitar, and I used to walk over there, and he'd be playing, he'd be strumming, and, one day I went over, and I just thought he was, like, the greatest thing I'd ever seen, and looking back, I'm not totally clear. I think he knew G and D and C,
Yeah.
But he'd play, and I'd just go, wow, what was that? And he'd go, that was Let It Be.
Oh, wow.
But I couldn't really hear it. It
Yeah.
was like strum.
Oh, yeah,
strum.
because it was beginner stuff.
Yeah, it was beginner, and it was like I didn't hear the drums, the vocals, the organ, or the guitar interlude, but it was Let It Be. And so one day he got a good guitar, and he gave me his old guitar. He said, hey, you can have this. And it was a green stamp guitar. You collect your green stamps, a Melody Plus, and I still have it in the Bay Area.
You still have it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I put a picture of it on my Instagram even about 3 weeks ago. I found it. You know how photos there that says like IMG 111777, and I like happen to open it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's my first guitar.
Wow.
But I still have it. And he gave it to me, and I said, hey, do you take guitar lessons? He's like, yeah, I take them from this woman, downtown South San Francisco, Bunny Gregoire. So he gave me the number, and I called her and started taking lessons. And she was at Bronstein's Music, and I went in, I'm 14 years old, just turned 14. I went in with this guitar, and I think she was 60 at the time.
Wow.
And
one of those.
It was like she could have said, I'm 130, I mean, I just thought, wow, this woman's like 140. But she was really cool, and she was a beatnik. And this is probably 1973 or 4.
Right.
But she was like, hey man, when groovy cats are grooving, like she
Oh my God,
she wore a beret, and
wow.
she was super kind, really good guitar teacher. And I remember after the first lesson, I just got chills thinking about it, like literally just now. Like, I just thought that's the most fascinating experience I've ever had in my life. I don't think I thought that, fascinating, but it was like she was really interesting and different, and it was, I was...
it was your first love.
Her
and the guitar.
I was certain what I wanted to do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. So you're going acoustic for a while, and then at what point do you get an electric? And what was the electric?
That's a good question. No one's ever asked me that. It was acoustic for a long time. Well, okay, I'm practicing 8 to 12 hours a day.
Are you getting good quick so you can do it?
I got good. Yeah, I got good. Like at 2 years, I got pretty good, and at 4 years, I mean, I actually have recordings of myself at 4 years, and I could sound like. I sound like a real bad version of like Neil Schon.
Oh, wow.
Or something like that.
Wow,
like,
yeah.
with all due respect to Neil Schon.
I think Neil's underrated.
In a way, yeah.
That stuff, that early Journey stuff, the instrumental fusion-y records.
Kohoutek.
Oh, my God,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
mean, dude, that stuff is incredible. And even, of course, the masterpiece of Infinity, that record, with Wheel in the Sky and shit.
I saw that group many times, Journey pre Steve Perry, and there was a rhythm guitarist named George Tickner.
Wow.
Yeah, and Ansley Dunbar was the drummer.
Yeah, he's
And
amazing.
Those guys ripped, man.
Right.
And so anyway, I sounded a little bit like that after 4 years. So I had an acoustic, this Melody Plus. I think I had it a year or two. Just played the heck out of it. And then my parents bought me a Yamaha guitar that was kind of like a Hummingbird Gibson, but like a cheap version of it, but not terrible.
Yeah, like a Japanese copy, but
Something
Yamaha
like that.
still good though.
Yeah, and I played that, and then I started borrowing an electric guitar, and it was a Teisco.
Oh, Teisco.
Yeah, and I remember it had this 2 screws on the bridge plate, and I used to push my hand into it and literally bleed. But it was this guy, Phil Only, I think I think is his last name. It's been so many years. Good guy. And he used to lend it to me. And then finally, I think I was about 16, 17, I got a Gibson 330.
Oh, wow.
So, and then...
That's cool. P90s?
Yeah. And it was... I think then I got a Fender Twin, too, at some point. Excuse me. I got it from this guy, Frank Sprouse, and I bought a Sunburst Les Paul and with a Fender Twin, and I know it was for a song, like $800 for both or something.
Of course.
And then, I was kind of on my way. Then I got a 54 Les Pauls that I played for like about 10 years.
Wow, gold top P90?
Yeah, gold top.
Wow, wraparound bridge.
The neck had been broken in half and remended, I think, with a different Les Paul neck.
Wow.
Right in the middle. But I got that at Dan Torres in Saratoga.
Oh.
Anyway, yeah. So, and I played that guitar. Now we're getting to where I'm, 25, 26 years old. So anyway,
and are you in bands at the time?
Oh, yeah.
Like originals and what are the styles you're playing? Because of course what you're playing now is, and since I've known you with Campilongo 10-gallon cats, it's it's always been a heavy country influence style, but back then, are you just straight rock?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the great things about, if I use a broad spectrum like our generation, is that, as we were talking, like everywhere there were clubs and everywhere there were bands, it was pre-DJs. So if you could go dung dung ticka ticka dung dung ticka ticka dunk 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 dunk, that's one song, Doobie Brothers.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, it was. I think I started playing with this great drummer, a guy named Kenny Owen. We met this great bass player, Bill Brady. We started a little band. We did some Fleetwood Mac and stuff like that. We didn't play much. And then we met this guy, Michael Frost, and he was a singer. I think I'm 17 at the time, and he could sing. And we started playing clubs, and a good band, know. And we did his original stuff and some Steve Miller or whatever.
Yeah.
It didn't require, you didn't need to be a virtuoso. But I was like a good blues rock player.
Yeah.
At the time.
Yeah.
So to continue, because you mentioned country, I always liked some country, but it was hard to get to. I mean, again, it's like pre-internet. You're an Italian kid in South San Francisco. My parents listened to Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass and John Gary, which is good stuff. But, on a lark, the first serious thing I did on a lark, I went to some record store and I saw Merle Haggard live in Muskogee, and I saw the tracks, and I saw Okie from Muskogee's on here. I'm like, oh yeah, this is that like Nazi guy who hates hippies, and so whatever, that old fart, and I brought it home thinking it'll be funny, listening to this, it'll be like hee haw, but politically, absurd. And I remember listening to it and going, wow, this is pretty good. And then there was a song in there called If I Had Left It Up to You. It's on the B-side. And it really spoke to me. And at the time, I'm listening to Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf, Blind Lemon Jefferson, Buddy Guy, all the Kings. Like some other stuff, but that's my focus. And this song the lyrics were so simple. If I had left it up to you, it'd all be over now.
Yeah.
And it just connected with me, and it was so pretty and melodic. So I'm thinking at the time, and I'm just basically really uninformed, and I thought, I'll learn the guitar solo, and it was a guy named Roy Nichols, right, who's like he should be on added to Mount Rushmore for country guitar.
Wow. He played like on everybody's record?
Well, no, he was Merle Haggard's guitarist for about 20 years.
Wow.
Helped define what the Telecaster is. Great player, great ideas. A lot on those records he'd play on them, and so would James Burton. Sometimes it's hard to tell the two apart.
Wow.
Roy's more of like nerds know about him. You know, James Burton's a little more famous because he played with Elvis and stuff, and Ricky Nelson.
Paisley Guitar King.
And that, and he's fantastic. So anyway,
right.
I tried to learn this solo, and I was amazed at how subtle and muscly it was. And so that was the beginning. And I ended up joining my cousin's wedding band. And I don't want to go on forever, but my cousin had this wedding band. They worked all the time because it was pre-DJ. You could be a mediocre little band. And if you played Bad Bad Leroy Brown or what have and the Anniversary Waltz and New York, New York, I think some of the same songs you probably still play, you can play a lot. And so we did. And they were called Country Breeze.
Country Breeze.
Yeah. And but they played a lot of country stuff, and I loved it. I remember Wasted Days and Wasted Nights. I'd be, oh, great, we're going to play that one. I love that song. And it kind of was a nice introduction and to country music. And I've loved it more and more and more ever since, because the more you dig, the more you find how it's such truly great music. Like it still pains me that people don't know I think it's a Little Darlin' label. I just kind of drew a blank. Johnny Paycheck, or pre-Beard Merle Haggard, or Buck Owens and the Buckaroos. There's a wealth of great stuff. And unfortunately, people aren't aware of it or don't know about it. And then I got into the steel guitar solo records. And that really influenced me, and hence your lesson where I was probably showing you stuff that was way too hard.
Well, you were it's funny because I had Kenny Vaughn on recently, and Kenny Vaughn is one of my all-time favorite players. And you were definitely a legend in San Francisco as far as like, there was this whole thing going on. I grow up loving the Les Paul, and then all of a sudden these guys are playing these tellies, and I'm like, I don't even know, how do you even play a telly? It sounds fucking, it doesn't make any sounds, And then I start seeing these guys like you, and you're doing this amazing pedal steel style playing, all with the tone and the volume knob and all that. And I was like, wow, this is the shit, man. And it was really amazing to see how the telly just came into its own in that time. Of course, in the country world, and Bruce played one, and Joe Strummer played one. But to see these guys and really learn that it was the blue collar, ultimate screwdriver, kind of crescent wrench of guitars. It did everything,
It's funny, because I kind of forget that I remember when it wasn't super fashionable.
Not at
it was
all.
A little bit of an unusual call. Like, at the time, there was real process guitar was popular. Maybe people would have a Lab Series amp.
Yep.
Maybe you'd have a Roland guitar synthesizer.
Some Rockmans.
I remember, Rockman.
Yep.
I remember hearing Ohio by the Pretenders and thinking, oh, good. Like it was like a glimpse of light. Because I remember I was given for a while I was giving guitar lessons at Ceremony Music Shopping Center. And, I felt like, wow, my style's become kind of antiquated already. Randy Rhoads was big, and I had like a lot of students, like 9, 10 a day. I think I taught 2-3 days a week, and none of them were really interested in like steel guitar licks. I was just some guy in the back,
right?
But I remember I was showing people hammer on stuff, and I didn't like that really. I mean, I wasn't bitter, but I just never felt right about it. And when I got a Tele, I was lucky enough to get one I really connected with, that I felt was easy to play. This 59 I got.
I was always blown away. You had that, it was a top loader.
Yeah.
And that was so weird. Because
that was weird.
That's a weird era. I had a 59, but it was the Esquire, and it was a slab board, which I worshipped, and then when I would go see you play, I was like, whoa, he's got a top loader. That's kind of that weird stepchild era of the Tele. And the necks were always smaller on those models for some reason. Everything
you're right.
about it was very weird. And I always heard that you had some kind of crazy sweat where everything would just fall apart on it. You know what I mean?
That is true. I didn't know I was that talked about when I was there. I would have stayed there.
Oh, you were like a legend, dude. You know what I mean?
Really?
People were like, he's got like this ascetic sweat.
Yeah, I did.
It just eats through the frets and the chrome and everything,
Yeah, well, I mean, if I play a set of new strings, like after about an hour, they kind of start changing color. I mean, it sounds gross, but so I keep them on there.
There it is right there.
Yeah, there it is.
Holy shit, I didn't even notice.
I still play it all the time. It's my guitar.
So how do you get that guitar, man?
Well, that's a good question. Even at that time when we're both running around San Francisco paying $250 a month rent.
Yeah.
Or I'm teaching at Ceremony Music, giving guitar lessons to kids for, I don't know what I was charging, like, $8, for a half hour or something.
Oh, wow.
Something like that. I'd get 4. I don't know what it was. But something like that, Like, I taught this guy named John Jensen, and real good guy. And he was kind of a collector. He wasn't kind of a collector. He collected guitars, and it's back when you could. They weren't 25,000.
Of course. Yeah.
And so he'd get these really nice guitars. I remember every month or so or 2 months he'd bring something in, and he ended up bringing in that 59, and I immediately fell in love with it. And at the time he got it for $2,000, which was a lot of money back then.
Big time.
And I really like a lot of my guitars and connect with them and respect them. But that one, I mean, I picked it up and it was like things I couldn't play a minute before I could play on that. Wow. It was just the way it just felt. I fell in love with it.
And was it all original at the time, like the pickups?
When I got that guitar, it was completely a brand new paint job.
A refin?
Yeah, and the pick guard that's a new pick guard.
Yeah, because that's single ply. Right?
I wore the other one out. I played through it, and it was brand new as well.
Wow.
The pickups on that both have snapped internally. Like 20 years ago, and I had them rewound by Seymour Duncan.
Unbelievable.
And it's been refretted. Everything's changed.
It's been played.
And so, anyway, John brought it over, and he said, hey, I said, wow, I love this. He goes, you can borrow it. And I said, wow, thanks. And I had this other Tele I was playing. I think I paid $600 for it. I forgot what the name. A Ransom Tele. The guy at Real Guitars in the back.
Brower. Oh, the other guy to the left.
Other guy.
Yeah, that's his name. Ransom. Yeah.
Ransom. Yeah. And so I was playing a Ransom Tele, and it was real nice, But I just fell in love with this thing. So I started playing it, and like maybe 3 months later, I told John. He came to his lesson, and I said, I can't borrow this anymore.
Yeah.
I got to give it back to you because it's like not mine. And every day that goes by, it feels more like I want it. And he goes, no, you can keep it for as long as you want. I said, no. So I gave it back to him. And that day he said, if I ever get good on the guitar, like I'll give it to you. And I said, okay. And he was kind of struggling.
Yeah.
You know. So anyway, it ends up he's still kind of struggling with some stuff, basic stuff, and he decides that he wants to play bass. So he brings in a bass, and he brings in a Jamie Jamerson book, and I start showing him stuff like that, little things, because I'm not a bass player, you know, but, you know, you know, that kind of stuff. And he's immediately getting it. Like if he would have played some of these same lines on the guitar, he wouldn't be able to do it. It was extraordinary.
Wow.
So after a few months, you know, he's starting to play bass pretty good. And I'm saying, you know I have a student who's at your level and maybe you could jam with him. And one lesson he comes in with the Telecaster and he goes, I can play bass. You can have this.
Wow.
And at first I said, no, John, I can't take it. You paid $2,000 for it. He said, no, you can have it.
Wow.
And
That's
it was
incredible.
It was one of the nicest gifts I've ever been given, and it was super generous of him.
Well, it's really funny because it's so who you are, you know, like when Fender decides to do a master built Jim Campilongo Tele, they replicate your top loading Tele, you know, and you were like one of the only guys I ever knew that played a top loader, you know, and if people don't know what that is, on Teles the body has holes in the back. Wow, look at that. And you'd put strings through the body. But this one, for some insane reason with Fender, which I always love, for only a 6-month period, they made it with no holes, and you put the strings through the bridge. It's so weird that a lot of people that had them would drill holes to make their own, to get rid of the top loader.
Well, what's funny about that, and I was going to mention this, is, okay, so we know I went through the whole John Jensen gave it to me story. So fast forward 6 months after he gives it to me. I'm playing this little club in San Francisco, and some guy comes up to me and goes, oh, man, yeah, your Tele sounds good. Oh, he goes, it's a top loader. And I go, what's that?
Yeah, oh, man, you didn't even know.
I didn't even know. And he goes, oh, usually the strings go through the back. And I remembered my Ransom did, but I didn't really think about it.
You maybe just thought it was a custom guitar, and that's how he did it.
I just didn't think about it. And then he goes, yeah, those are dogs.
Those are dogs.
And I thought, no, it isn't. But I do think that there's a different feel to them, that they're a little slinkier.
Yeah.
I think that they don't have that super piercing Tele sound that some like
the
a
ice picky one.
Gatton-esque, even like it doesn't even ice pick, or even in best case scenario Gatton-esque. Like it doesn't quite get that. I mean, it does enough.
Yeah.
And I also think that if you turn them over, they're a great writing desk. And I'm really used to that.
Wow.
Like
writing a set list out.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
A lesson. Like I'm always turning the guitar over and writing on something. And, you know, and so and it's also a little looser behind the nut. Like the whole thing's a tiny bit looser. So when I do the behind the nut bends and all that, everything's a little easier. And I think since then, like the prejudice against the top loader has subsided.
Yeah,
for sure.
I watched a YouTube video of you, and you were going through what you love about a Tele, and it exactly hit me the same way. The first thing you would check is you would play like a C or whatever to see if it was a piercing ring, because my whole thing was I was obsessed with 54 gold tops because of P90, but I love the Tele. Mm-hmm. So if I could find one, that's why I like the Esquire, but if I could find one that had the bassy sound, which is not what people want out of a Tele, they want the chicken picking high-end country stuff. I was like, if I could find one that had like a good bassy tone and wasn't ear piercing, that would be my guitar. And you were like the same way. You go right, you play a note and you go, okay, this one's gonna kill people in the third row.
Yeah, I mean, I just didn't like that sound as much. I mean, I loved Roy Buchanan's first record, but he didn't get that sound.
Right.
Like it's just a lousy sound to me. And yeah, it's like I've always said, I don't think anybody had a Telecaster of any kind and thought, geez, I wish I could get more treble.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's going to be there.
Yeah.
So
now, you're in San Francisco, and it's funny because at the time to me, it seemed like we were all making a living playing music because it was so cheap. You'd play a Friday, Saturday, Sunday at the Paradise. You could pay your rent. You could eat a $5 burrito. You could have a Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Still miss those burritos.
Right, I know, man.
Sorry.
At what point do you go, oh, I'm moving to New York and not Nashville or L.A.?
Well, that's a good question. There's a lot of ways to answer it, and a way to begin answering it. And first off, San Francisco had begun to change. Paradise closed. And a lot of the sillier gigs, for lack of a better word, were no longer happening. There used to be that place on Radio Valencia.
Right.
Okay, so you could go there and kind of be ignored in the corner and play. And those kind of gigs disappeared. So you couldn't really work on your craft.
Right.
You had to go to Cafe du Nord on Thursday, try and get all your friends there. And that was kind of the only game in town. So it started, I felt like I hit the ceiling a little bit, and I probably sound more ambitious than I mean, maybe I am ambitious, but it just felt, I started feeling like a little desperate, right? Geez, I want to do more, and opportunity seems to be diminishing.
Yeah, I say the same thing. I felt like I hit the ceiling in San Fran. And years can go by. You know what I mean? Years can go by, and you're just like, oh, okay, here I'm doing these 40 gigs again this year, and you either watch your own funeral or you get the fuck out.
Yeah, I mean, that said, it was 40 gigs a year, and then 30 gigs a year, and then maybe 20 gigs a year. And they got to where it was more like a showcasey gig. Great, I got every Thursday in August at Cafe du Nord, and that's great. It's an enviable position, but I just felt, wow, it's getting smaller, not getting bigger. Yeah. Even if Paradise was still open and, all those clubs, and we were all running around nuts and going to the Stone, I might have stayed there. But so I ended up I met this woman named Heather Haller, who was a good friend, and she kind of prompted me to go to New York. And so she helped book some gigs for me. And I came here with a group that I had from San Francisco with David Phillips and Chris Key and Andrew Borger. Phillips. Yeah, came here. But it was right during 9/11.
Oh, wow.
I don't know why I just laughed, but it was crazy. Oh, yeah. So I did a Knitting Factory gig, and the next day I had a 55 bar gig, and that was 9/11. So I got here, and all the gigs got canceled, and basically it was chaos, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I just couldn't wait to get out of here. I mean, it was crazy. There was everybody forgets, but it was like a point where you think, oh, are they going to bomb more? Yeah. And I was one of the first people to fly in America, because you couldn't fly for a while. And I got out of here and I went back to San Francisco. And as soon as I got to San Francisco, I just wanted to come back.
Really?
Yeah, it was weird. I mean, there was definitely that camaraderie that catastrophe brings.
Yeah.
The day after the 89 quake, you were there, it's like there's a camaraderie that happens that's part of being human, I think. And I did like the city, though most of my experience of it was chaos. So I saved up for about 6 months, and I moved here. And meanwhile, I had met an unknown singer, this unknown young singer, named Norah Jones.
Oh, wow.
And I knew she lived here, and I thought, well, we had played some country music when she was in the Bay Area, because I was friends with her boyfriend, Lee Alexander, who was another one of those people I forgot to mention who moved from San Francisco to New York. When I was naming, there was 40 people, he was one of them. So I thought, well, I know Norah, and I knew this guy, Rob Berger, who I had played with.
Rob Berger.
Yeah, Rob Berger. And I thought, oh, what the heck? I'm going to give it a go. And it was the scariest thing I've ever done.
I hear you, right?
So I moved here and...
Into this place here?
Yeah. I actually was sleeping on somebody's couch for a while, but I ended up... This was Lee and Norah's place. And I rented that room that you don't know, you haven't seen it, but it's this room next to this one.
Oh, wow.
And it was great. And I moved in, and I came here, brought my little box of stuff because I didn't bring much stuff. I didn't bring my records yet, that's for sure. I didn't know if I'd be here for 3 months. And, Charlie Parker would say, "Get out of here. You're not good enough."
Yeah,
because that was the idea I had in New York.
Yeah.
And so I was here in this little room, and they said, "Hey, I knew they had a record out. I knew Norah was fantastic." So we went for a walk. They said, "We're going on tour tomorrow to promote this record that's coming out." And we went for a walk, and I'm like, I didn't even know where I was. He goes, "Hey, don't go left. Just go this way," because the neighborhood was still a little rough.
Yeah.
And they left. And I just watched the apartment for him. And a few months later, I was sitting in this apartment, and I saw her get 5 Grammys.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And, it was amazing.
Wow.
So, but that's not really my story, but it's part of my story. But that's how I ended up moving to New York.
Wow. And then eventually you get this place, huh? The whole thing to yourself.
Well, she couldn't come back. Maybe people don't remember, but she won 5 Grammys. This place was on the cover of the New York Post as Grammy Queen's Humble Brooklyn Digs.
Wow.
And so there's some guy was like yelling Norah every night, and there was all this press parked out in front. And I remember there was all kind of like 3-4 news vans parked out in front, like for at least 3 or 4 days. And I remember in the window I put scottamendola.com.
Yeah.
Yeah, Scott, he's a friend of mine. So I was putting like my friends, websites up there, and they'd all be looking up. I mean, it was crazy. It was like I've never. It sounds like an exaggeration, but it's not. It's like it was crazy, and so. But she just couldn't come back.
Yeah.
And they were offering, like, I think they offered my landlord like $1,500 or something just to come in and take pictures of the place, and he said no.
Yeah.
So they never came back, and I took the place over, and I had a friend of mine, Kevin Barber, just moved in, so we were roommates for a year or two.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
And then what do you start doing work-wise once you're here? Do you just start trying to do sessions, or are you giving lessons?
Oh, man, I was like possessed. Okay, like for 6 months before I moved here, because, I moved back, I was putting up Craigslist ads for guitar lessons 6 months before I moved here.
Oh, wow.
I made a friend of mine, Darren Rovin, helped make this like Whitman sampler of me, like that. I gave to like every jingle house.
Yeah.
I hung up guitar lesson posters like all day, every day. And the only thing I had, and this was lucky, was I had every Wednesday in August of 2002 at the old knitting factory.
Yeah.
That was it.
Wow, that was it.
That was it. And that got extended, like, eventually, like we did it for a year or two, and I met my band, Dan Reeser and Tim Lunsell, who were fantastic musicians, and Scott Amendola actually referred them. So I was a man possessed. Like, I mean, every waking moment, like I tried to generate something, because I had come here, I was scared. I was no spring chicken.
Yeah.
I think I was 42 or 43.
Right.
I went from San Francisco where, I was.
You're comfortable.
You're comfortable. My family's there. I'm a bit of a big fish in a small pond. I could at least get my guitar fixed in 24 hours at a guitar store. Come here, it's like you're an amoeba, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it was tough, but I ended up I was very lucky, and I worked really hard. I got the weekly gig extended. Some people saw me and liked my playing. I was different at the time for here in New York.
Totally.
Because there's so many great players, but I managed to be different. And then eventually started playing with Norah and the Little Willies. Got some session work started giving lessons. And that's what was great about New York and still is you don't have to do one thing.
Yeah.
You know, like when I was in San Francisco towards the end, I was given 40 lessons a week.
Wow.
And that was kind of it.
Yeah, wow, man. That's crazy to be a guy your level that's only giving lessons. Because at the time, did you play on the Cake record when you were living in San Francisco?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Because I was wondering why that didn't kick into other session work. Was it because you were in San Fran and not L.A., where the L.A. guys were just boom, boom?
I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. I'm so proud of that record too, and I loved working with John McCrae and the band.
Was that the Going the Distance and all that, right?
What's this?
Was that the big record, Going the Distance?
No, it was. I can't remember the name of it. Like a Sheep Go to Heaven.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't think of the name of the record. It's on my. I'll look up my discography later. But it's a great record. You know, it's a great record, and not many records are great. So I don't know. I mean, this whole session thing. I didn't get that many calls in San Francisco, and even now I don't get that many calls because I'm kind of genre specific. I think. And especially in New York, like if you want Brazilian guitar, you get a Brazilian dude.
Yeah.
If you want, sitar, you get that, guy from India, And so sometimes I think my phone should ring maybe a little bit more, but a lot of times it's like, oh, we want twang, let's get Jim or something. And if you listen to Live at Rockwood, there isn't a whole lot of twang going on there, I don't think. I mean, there kind of is, but it's certainly not the 10-gallon cats.
Right.
So, yeah, it was, I think, but I still get called. Lately, I've been producing. We just produced a record, me and Luca Benedetti co-produce, a guy named Ryan Humbert who came from Ohio after hearing a record me and Luca produced, Zephaniah Uhura, which is a great country record. I produce, I do some sessions, whatever, try to stay busy, but you always want to be busier, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Dude, that's all you just look at your calendar and you see empty holes and you start to freak out.
Yeah.
Because you just see the end of the month is coming and that's when the rent's due. And everything else is just like, wow.
I mean, in myself, I just think, I just want to be busy. And in some ways, like, you have to justify the discomfort and struggle of living in the city. Yeah. I mean, it's a great city, but, it's hard. It's a struggle. It's expensive. I'm not here to watch Netflix.
No, not at all.
I could go somewhere else and do that more comfortably.
Columbus, Ohio. And just, give lessons and have a big old house.
Move next door to Yngwie Malmsteen in Florida.
Yeah, right. That's. You still loving it here?
Yeah, I am. I am. It's changing though. Like New York's changing a lot. Like, I hate to be the first one to say it, but New York's changing. It's. Condos are going up everywhere. Some of the stuff like I used to love has gone. There was a TV repairman guy here who didn't speak English, who would fix anything, and somehow you'd communicate that to him even though he didn't speak a word of English.
Wow.
And I didn't speak Chinese.
Right.
And things like that now, I think it's an AT&T Mobile, and there's a lot of empty storefronts. I mean, I think they all want way too much
money.
Way too much. So some of the things that were the character of where I lived have left, even though this neighborhood's hanging tough. Like, technically I live in Williamsburg, which is one of the probably
the
hippest places in the world. And if you go to Bedford Avenue, I'm told that's the most expensive storefront in the world.
Wow.
Well, there's an Apple store there and a Whole Foods.
There's a Whole Foods, yeah.
When I used to go to Bedford, I used to go to this bodega, and in the back there was like this speakeasy restaurant with 3 little Mexican ladies who would make homemade food. And it was kind of like off the grid, and now I don't know what it is, some like clothing store with like 4 dresses in it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that are each like 20 grand.
or something. Now that's not all New York, and it's like we were talking before the show about public transportation. It's a beautiful city. In a lot of ways, it's a very inexpensive place to live because if you just go for a walk, it's amazing.
Totally.
I love the people here.
Yeah.
Like that was the thing I didn't mention when I moved here is how much I've connected with the people. More, they kind of spoke my language. People here work hard. I mean, I remember, in San Francisco, like, oh, here's the 50th sound man who's vibing me, going slow and telling me to turn down.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And that doesn't happen here.
Yeah.
Like you get a sound man who's either handsome or beautiful.
Yeah.
and goes like, all right, yeah, you're done. And like you play and it's like they don't complain to you. It's like, and it's fast. Am I alone here?
No, I get it. You know what I mean?
The work ethic here is extraordinarily high.
Well, I think that comes down to because if you don't work, you just get stepped over and spit out here.
Right.
You know what I mean? You got shit to pay for, so you better work.
I remember playing at the place is gone now. I can't remember the name, but when during the 9/11 thing, like I had done this one gig other than the Knitting Factory. Oh, I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, the sound person there was this gorgeous woman. I mean, just gorgeous. And she came up and I thought, she's the sound person? She should be, a movie star. And she was great. Like a great sound person. Like the sound was done during the first song, no sound check. Everything sounded great.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, I guess there's so many people applying for the job that they might as well get the beautiful one.
yeah, right? Yeah.
So that I really like.
Instead of like Skeletor over there in the corner, like, all right, kick, kick, okay, snare. You're like, oh, this guy.
There's kind of now and then there's like an angry hippie thing going on. And that doesn't exist here. Though I love the Bay Area and the quality of life. So, and I also like the directness here. And it took a while to get used to.
Yeah.
It took me about 6 months. Yeah. I remember, going into this place called Joe's Busy Corner, and I was feeling kind of low and homesick and, desperate for work. So I thought, I'll go get a meatball sandwich because they're really good there. So I went into Joe's Busy Corner and he's like, what do you want? And I go, I'd like something like a meatball sandwich. I was speaking in California.
Yeah.
Something like he goes, do you want a meatball sandwich or do you want something like a meatball sandwich? And he was totally in earnest. I wasn't direct enough. So I got really frustrated by it. I was like, I want a meatball sandwich. But another year later, I went into a pizza place, waited in line, got to the counter, and I went, 1, and the guy said 2. I got 1 piece of pizza for $2.
Wow. So right. It's just it's cut the fat.
Yeah.
Let's get the fuck out of here. Ain't got time.
Yeah, but I like that.
Yeah.
And if you do talk, it's meaningful. It isn't like, how are you today? Your waiter doesn't tell you that he's really a poet.
Yeah.
Like he's just a good waiter.
Yeah, exactly.
So these are generalities, but I think it's part of the New York experience that I like, hence why I like the people.
Yeah.
Here.
Now you play what? You still play every Monday at the Rockwell, or what's going?
Every Monday I play at Rockwood Music Hall. I kind of mix it up. I play with my band that was on live at Rockwood Music Hall, The Record, Chris Morrissey and Josh Dion, who are fantastic. It's our second record we've done. We did Dream Dictionary. Been together for 5 years.
Yeah.
And but I mix it up. I also play guitar duet with this guy Luca Benedetti, who's fantastic, who I mentioned I co-produce those records with, and we do a guitar duo thing that I've been really working on. And now and then I bring in this guitarist Gray McMurray, who's a great unique guitarist, very like kind of the opposite of me in that he uses a lot of effects and sound collage.
Kind of like a Nels kind of style.
Kind of like a Nels, but like second generation.
Right.
You know, because I play, actually, I'm going to do those gigs with Nels.
Yeah,
I just said Blue Whale and Yoshi's.
That's great.
Nels is
I'm going to have
coming with
Nels
us.
on the show.
Oh, you should. He's the best.
Yeah, he doesn't know me, so going through Third Man, they're like, could you do it somewhere around here? Like, they don't want me to his house because they don't know me. They're like, could you do it somewhere around there? I go, I don't know anything around. What are we going to do it in a park?
So is he doing it?
I don't know. I'm waiting to hear back, but I was like, I go to everyone's houses. I'm not a lunatic. You know?
I've never been to his house, so I don't know. I mean, you know, he would invite me. I've been to his birthday party, but it was at a bar. You know, we're friends, is what I'm saying, but I haven't been to his house. But yeah, if you want me to vouch for you, you know.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great.
You're not an axe murderer, right?
No.
I mean, okay, we're good.
You'd be dead already if I was. I wouldn't be waiting an hour. Let's get into this. You got like a kind of a fairly inexpensive boutique guitar out now. You did have a Fender Master model, right, that they were putting out.
Right.
And now you have another company that's making a version of your guitar with a pine body, which is amazing because the first Telecasters were pine bodies with no truss rods.
That's right.
So that's pretty amazing that you got that.
Well, thanks for bringing it up. Yeah, I did. I can't remember, like 5 years ago or something, I did a Fender custom shop signature model for Fender, and it was a limited run of 50.
You got one?
Yeah. It's not hanging up, though. Sorry.
No.
I don't know. I don't have that many guitars, but those, I think that one's under the bed or something right now. That's not it.
I know that's not it.
I had to put that one away. And we're looking at a Dan Electro. I had to take, but I kind of have like what I may play.
Yeah.
You know. I don't have that many guitars.
Oh, there's one right there. There it is.
Is that it? No, that's
That
that's the Han. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
but
what
we
I'm
were
talking
talking about. I thought we meant the Fender.
No, but
So-
I want to see the Fender.
So anyway, it was a limited thing of 50. They really tried to replicate my 59, you know, and it was great. It was a great honor.
How'd that happen? Did they approach you?
Yeah, they approached me. It was this guy, Mike Eldred, who's like super cool. And super nice, and I think I was at a NAMM show, I was at the NAMM show promoting Princeton Reverbs.
Oh yeah,
and it was talking to him. He said, "Hey, you should do a custom shop signature," and I was like, "Me?" You know, I thought that was for Yngwie, you know,
yeah,
or John Mayer or some guy like that, you
right.
know. But he was like, "No, you should do one." So we did it. It was great, but there was only 50.
How did they do it? Did they get your guitar for like a week?
Well, not a week. I went there twice. It's in Corona,
Right.
LA, and they measured it and everything, and then they'd send me something, and I'd either give it the thumbs up or the thumbs down. The pickups took forever.
Really?
Forever. But we ended up getting pickups that were nice and round and bassy. I mean, just to like do 2 pickups takes like an hour. You know, so if you do 50, you know, and because you got to take the set out, you got to put them in, you got to remember the sound, you got to play them through a couple of amps. You know, it's arduous to me. I mean, maybe I'm not curious enough, but anyway, so we did that and we got it right. So I knew Chiho Han because a few years back, I was playing the living room because I used to play the living room every Monday in New York. And he came by with a guitar and he said, "Hey, I want you to have this." And I was like, "Whoa, you know, I don't know. I don't want to take a guitar." He goes, No, I really would love for you to play one of my guitars." And so he opened the case on the street and it was this beautiful Tele. And I played it at the show and really liked it. And the next day, I happened to be playing on David Letterman.
Wow.
With Martha Wainwright, who I was lucky enough to tour with for a year. I forgot to mention that. Yeah. I toured with her for about a year and she was playing Letterman and I really liked the guitar. And Adam Levy did that once. There was a guitar builder and when he played Letterman, he played like the guitar builder's
model.
guitar instead of his trusty 335 that he always played. And I really respected. I thought, you know, Adam's so thoughtful when he did that. And he is.
Yeah.
And I thought I should maybe do that and I'll be less nervous because I'll be doing a good deed.
Yeah.
But it was a great guitar. And so I played it on Letterman the next day and Chiho was thrilled. And so anyway, that's how our friendship started. And we always talked about a signature model. So we talked about it, and like most things, it started as one idea and became a completely different thing. Like we were going to do this semi-hollow body black guitar, that had these TV Jones in it. And then we thought, let's do a boutique telly. And one day, like I get some of my most, best ideas the first 30 seconds I wake up. I don't know about you. Maybe you get better. Maybe your ideas, you get them all day. I don't know. I get like once in a while I get a good one, like the first 30 seconds of my day. The rest, it's all downhill.
That's when they say you're the best.
Is that well? And so I woke up and I thought, we shouldn't make an expensive guitar. We should make a really inexpensive guitar that everybody could afford. And the Model C, it'll be like my initial, but it'll be like the Model T. And I called up Chiho's one of the few people who's up at like 5 a.m.
Yeah.
And called him and said, I got this great idea, and let's sell it for $800. And can we do it? And he's like, I don't know if we could do it for $8. And he goes, I'll try. So he like looked, and a couple weeks went by. Finally calls me up. He's like, there is no way. He goes, I will go out of business. So we figured out $14.95.
Yeah.
Free gig bag, free shipping in the U.S. and pine body, and it's not trying to be my 59.
Right.
It's just trying to be a really good boutique telly that's affordable.
It's got a cool pick guard, man.
It does.
I like the pick guard shape. What's the difference between the pine body, do you notice, tone-wise, compared to swamp ash?
Well, I don't really notice it.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I'm just being honest here. I want to give some I find that it's got a little more high end. I mean, I didn't notice my guitar was a top loader.
Right.
And
all you care about is when you plug it in, does it sound good? That's it.
I care about that. I care that I'll play the guitar that's to my right or left a lot.
Right.
And actually, I go see bands and people go, what kind of guitars did they play? And I think, wow, I don't know. I'll think, but I know what shoes they wore. I know if they tucked in their shirt. I know how they moved when they played.
That's hilarious.
And maybe, I imagine for a second how they looked when they were having sex.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
But I did not notice their guitar. I mean, I always my imagination gets captured in a very different way than I'd think, oh, that's a Red Dot 335. Like, I don't think about that stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I just love guitars.
What about it when you see a comedian? Just like, you must notice their body language and their timing.
With a comedian, I'm barely noticing anything. I might look at what they're wearing just because I'm into fashion, but I'm more definitely listening 100%. And timing and cadence and rhythms, like if you were listening to comedy when you were a kid on vinyl. That's still how I process comedy, when they're out there. Once I look at the human for a few minutes, I don't even see him anymore. Then my brain goes into listen mode of like what they're saying and stuff. It's weird.
That's okay. That's exactly what I do.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, I mean, I by default, I know a lot about guitars and like what sounds good, and I kind of know wood types, but mostly it's just like you as a comedian. Like, I listen to the sound and I almost become blind.
Yeah.
But I do look at their clothes and
I do too.
Their body language. And if somebody is like making stupid guitar faces, I might judge them a little bit, just like you might judge somebody who makes like, I don't know, a certain kind of joke, like, I was smoking my bong last night. I mean, I don't know what's like a cheesy joke you might judge.
Well, I mean, and when somebody comes out and they say, I know what you're thinking, I look like a cross of such and such and such and such. A lot of guys, they'll do that,
Is it? See, I wouldn't know that.
And right away you're like, oh, man, I heard it 1,000 times. But it's kind of like to get that out of the way if they do have a look of something, and everybody's like, I used to have a big mustache, and I would have to address it right away, or else if I didn't, they'd be like, this guy's mustache is absurd.
They'd be distracted.
Oh, yeah. So you got to get that.
So what did you say?
I had a bit that would just kill with it, and it's funny, the bit was so big that I was afraid to shave the mustache. I was like, this is ridiculous. As soon as I shaved it, I go, there goes that bit.
Yeah.
But it was a bit about how people send naked photos of their kids, like babies, when they're a brand new baby. They'll send you a photo, hey, here's our baby, and it'll be in my phone. And I go, I got a mustache. I can't have photos like that in my phone. That was the bit, you know what I mean? Like, and it would kill. But, it's definitely, everything's visual for me at first, and then it gets into what's going on.
And what comedy records did you really connect with when you were,
Cheech and Chong.
Cheech and Chong.
Big time.
Up in Smoke.
Pryor. Carlin. I had the Carlin records. Cheech and Chong really blew my mind young because it was storytelling comedy, and they were saying stuff I couldn't believe. They were talking about drugs, and they were talking about, and it was multicultural. There was like different characters that were different races and stuff, and it was a journey. It was really blew my mind. Like, what is this? That stuff was amazing. And then, of course, later on getting into Bill Hicks and records like that you just put on and you didn't need to see nothing. You were just listening to what they were saying, and you would just laugh.
I love Bill. Yeah, what you reading for?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I love that.
Bill Hicks. I mean, in some ways, Bill Hicks is like almost like a about commentary that's funny.
It's funny.
And it's still topical too.
Yeah. I was, Mark Maron's one of my best friends, and he was on a plane. He goes, I just ran into this guy, Jim Campilongo. You know him? I go, oh, yeah, that guy's a fucking...
He remembered?
Yeah, he hit me. He texted me.
I emailed him a couple of times, and we got real, because he said, yeah, I'll have you on the show. And I know since then he's had like Barack Obama.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So I'm like, does he want, the little old winemaker me? And, but I emailed him, and it was like, yeah, man, get back to me. And then nothing happened, which I totally understand. It happened again. And I'm going to L.A. again in July, but I thought, I don't know. I think his show's gotten too big for me, like that he won't have Jim Campilongo on because he could have Slash or some guy, But
but Mark's way into amazing players.
I'll email him again.
Yeah,
I think I got his email address because I love his show. He's so smart. He knows like at least a little about everything.
Yeah,
if not a lot about everything.
Yeah, he's a lot like me.
A lot like you.
Real quick before we get out of here, a couple things. Amplifiers, your Princeton Reverb guy. I see this 68 over here, which is a great one. That that era, the first silver face here with the binding around the grill.
Yeah, they're a little cheaper.
Yeah,
there's like some small. I like the way silver faces look more, and they're, I don't think I spent more than $800. I have like 8 or 9 Princetons,
and that's your amp of choice.
Yeah, they're light. They have reverb. They have the wiggly guitar. Tremolo.
Tremolo, yeah. Because you didn't get into deluxe or the Vibrolux.
Yeah, I played a Vibrolux all during San Francisco.
210s.
Yeah,
killer.
210s. But for New York, the Princeton thing works. And I bought a bunch in the early 2000s because they were like all $500.
Yeah.
And I had a feeling, I only had one amp when I came here. I had a Princeton and it broke one day and I couldn't, I was like, I got to get another amp. And then I thought, I bet you Princetons become really fashionable because they're light and they sound great and you stick a mic in front of them, they're louder than hell. And so I bought, probably like 6 or 7 of them.
Wow.
I don't know how many I have here. I've sold a couple. I don't like to get too much stuff.
Yeah.
Unless they're records. Like small stuff I'll do.
How many records you got?
What do you think? A couple thousand?
Couple thousand, yeah. Yeah, I'm like that.
And most of them are good.
Whoa, you got clips.
Oh yeah.
Wow, I had the CEO of the company on my podcast a year ago.
Oh really? I got to check it out.
Oh my God, yeah, Clips is amazing, and he taught me how to say it after all these years. Clips, you know what I mean?
I think I had that, but you know, there you go.
God, those are great, man. Yeah, I got some Forte 3s, man, and it's funny to see this. You got a great Macintosh. What is that, like a receiver?
Yeah.
That's pretty.
Yeah, well, it's
kind of a command center.
Yeah, it's the command center. Then I got the, the tube amp, the Dynakit.
Is that a dual CS 5000?
Yeah.
Oh, I had that for years.
Really? Somebody gave that to me.
That's a great turntable.
Yeah, back in the day when no one wanted records.
Dude, that is a great turntable right there,
man.
This
thing sounds pretty good.
Yeah, those are great. I just sold mine, actually, because I got a project that... But I sold mine to the guy that plays keyboards behind the curtain on the Eagles.
Really?
In the Eagles, yeah. And Don Henley, he's like a keyboard guy behind the curtain.
Oh, the keyboard player.
Yeah, keyboard guy.
Yeah, they must. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
So other comedians, like you like the contemporary, like we talked about Bill Hicks. I'm curious. I know we want to talk about amps and stuff.
Oh, no. I'll talk about anything. Good. I don't give a fuck, yeah.
Okay.
Other comedians I love?
Uh-huh.
Oh, Dave Chappelle, Bill Burr, Maron, Chris Rock. I love this guy, Joe List, right now. He's a New York guy. He's just a murderer. He's at the Cellar all the time. Joe List is unbelievable. Ray Romano, last night, saw him shoot a special. The guy's still, he's not, he's, old school, but killing it. Just shot a new special. It's just great. I love all different kinds of comedians for different reasons, Dave Attell, one of the best of all time. And to get to see him in New York every night, a true blue comedian, like a comedian at heart, like not trying to be on TV, not trying to be an actor, does comedy. That's Dave Attell is like the king of New York.
He goes to like Iraq and entertains troops.
I think he goes everywhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's there's so much great comedy right now, and I'm learning so much. I've been doing it 8 years, and that's why I'm here in New York. And like you, I relate to you so much. Your story, because it's a lot like mine. You get somewhere, you're there a long time, you become the big fish in a small pond. I felt like that in San Francisco, and I played the Viper Room one night in LA, and the next day I moved because it was sold out and it was alive.
Yeah.
And now here I am 18 years later after the run in LA, and I'm feeling that in New York. My gut's like, you got to get in here, man, and you got to dig into this comedy scene so you're not just stagnant in one scene. You know what I mean? I think people get used to you being in a scene and they kind of take it for granted, like, I'll see him next week, or whatever, and you learn so much from different things. Here, I'm not in a car, I'm not on a motorcycle, I'm walking and I'm taking in the city and the people and the arguments and the sounds and the subway and the rats and all that shit, and it's pretty amazing, and it is scary. Mostly, I'm not afraid of a new city at all. I love that. But mostly, am I going to be able to pay the bills? The rent.
It's a lot.
It's a lot of money. But you wipe out a car, you wipe out insurance and gas, and now you're kind of about even playing field. But there's weird things I think about. Like, what if I had a heart attack right here? Who would I call? I once said that to Marin, and he goes, you call the ambulance. But I mean,
or call a cab, it's cheaper.
Yeah, but if you got sick or something, you don't have any buddies to stop by.
So you don't know anybody here?
I do, but it's not like that,
no.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But I feel like when you go away for a while, like last summer, I was here all summer, and I think I got like 3 calls from people in LA, like, dude, where are you? So it's not like it just keeps going. You know what I mean? A city.
Sometimes, like guys I know that move don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
So they still get calls, and some of the calls might be worse. Okay, I'll take a flight back to
Totally.
LA.
Totally.
They just don't tell anybody. Hey, I'm going. So many people. Who was that guy? Alex Bennett.
Yeah, Alex
Remember
Bennett.
him?
Yeah.
Remember he'd leave San Francisco real bitterly.
Yeah.
You know, he had that morning radio
Yeah,
show.
the Zoo, Morning Zoo.
And it was good.
Carrie Snow, Alex Bennett,
Wow.
Bobby Slayton.
Bobby Slayton.
We had the pit bull of comedy.
And he'd leave and he'd do it real bitter. Like he'd go, San Francisco has no culture, you know,
Yeah,
and he'd
yeah,
get
yeah.
mad because he got fired. Then he'd be back, you know.
Yeah,
be
yeah.
like,
I don't believe in that. I believe in being bi-coastal. Like I like to do a month here and then a month in LA, then a
There
month
you
here.
go.
You know what I mean? So you're constantly you're not a ghost in either coast, you know? It's great. It's great to talk to you, man.
yeah, I really
so
had.
funny. It's like so many years ago that was. It was in the 90s, 90, probably 7 or 8 when I took a lesson from you. I put my record out in 99. So it's amazing to...
It's amazing.
and
Yeah.
also that you played music all your life and made a living, you know?
That's amazing too. That's something I always remember. Like, you know, sometimes in this business, you know, you almost have to force yourself to be grateful or to go through some list. Like, you know, when it gets frustrating or, you know, you're booking flights and then your flight gets canceled and,
Yeah.
you know, you're sitting between two people that, you know, seem like they could have been pro wrestlers, you know,
Yeah,
you're in the
yeah,
middle
yeah.
seat, you know, you're like, yeah, I'm doing what I love. Ha, you know, but that said, 99% of the time I am grateful like that people still want to hear me, because you can't bank on that. Like
No.
you know, at some point, you know, I thought well before, you know, I'm going to be 60 in July.
Wow.
Like when I
Amazing.
yeah, it's amazing.
Wow.
I know. I mean, when I was 25, like, I mean, I just thought if you were 30, you were done.
Right? I
know,
always thought that
right?
too. I'd be like, look at
that
those
was
guys.
the
They're
cutoff
old.
point. Yeah. And I remember, like, I hate to say this, you know, on a podcast, but we'd go to like weddings or whatever, our family weddings. And again, it was nice because, you know, you had your tribe's band play. So
Yeah.
it was like maybe a couple family members.
Yeah.
And we used to laugh, you know, we'd be like, God, you know, there'd be a guy playing accordion and, you know, I'd be like, laughing at him. And I thought, yeah, well, that's going to be my fate. And it still might be, but I thought I'd be perceived like some guy with, you know, an organ grinder and a monkey at this age. And the fact that like I still have a career and I don't sound totally dated.
Yeah. And you're playing in one of the hippest venues in New York.
I guess I am.
You know?
And I'm lucky, you know, I'm very lucky. And so I am grateful for that. But
and we're alive.
And we're alive.
We're fucking alive.
There is that, you know, we're alive and we're not sick, you know. I mean, there's a lot of things to be grateful for. Of course, you always want more or, you know.
Totally.
And that's kind of the story of life, but I'm really grateful for what I've done. And what amazes me is, you know, somebody asked me the other day, like, how long have you been playing guitar? And I didn't really think. I said, 46 years.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
I've been on stage 35 years.
I mean, even if it's darts or twiddlywinks, you know,
Yeah.
is that what they're? Yeah, tiddlywinks.
Yeah.
It's like, if you did that for 46 years, it's like, hey, dude, that's pretty good. You know, archery, 46 years. All
Yeah.
right for you.
Right.
You know, so I'm proud of it. You know?
Yeah, that's great, man. You got a website, Instagram, and all that?
Yeah, I got Instagram, you know, I got Twitter, I got my website.
All Jim Campilongo?
All Jim Campilongo. And, you know, I do those lessons by mail that are on my website. If we're good, this is the plug section.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do lessons by mail and...
Lessons by mail, what's that?
Well, on my site, I got over 100 lessons. They're audio with text, and they all cover usually like a specific thing, steel guitar bends, but usually they're like piece-oriented, like Autumn Leaves. No, Autumn Leaves isn't on there yet, but like it'll be like, okay, if it's the style of Django Reinhardt's, it's a tune.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like, here's lick number 1. Here's lick number 2. Bang, bang, bang. You know, they're not like that. And I think that's why they're fairly popular, because they're piece oriented that give you a context. You know, and I record them in here. There's like, you know, fire trucks going by and stuff. You know, it's not like, you know, some state of the art thing, but they're good. And I sell those on my website too, you know, so.
That's rad. Thank you so much for doing the
It
show.
was a total pleasure.
And come out and see some comedy, man.
I will this week.
Okay.
I will. You playing this week?
Every night, man.
So where are you playing?
Comedy Cellar.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Comedy Cellar on...
McDougal.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. One of the most... Next door to Cafe Wa.
I've walked by there a million times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll get you in there. And thank you so much. Get his records. He has 11 records out.
12.
12 now with the new one, yeah. 11 and one that's not on iTunes Stream, but you can buy it on iTunes.
Right.
The brand new one at the Rockwood. And make sure you subscribe to this podcast on YouTube and Instagram. Not Instagram. iTunes. And check out his YouTube stuff. There's a lot of great YouTube stuff. Jim has all kinds of cool guitar stuff on there. And thanks for tuning in, guys. Candles lit.